I don't even know where to start with this, but I need to get this out of my system. Maybe someone will read this and tell me I'm not crazy for feeling the way I do. Maybe someone's been through something similar. I don't know. My name's Olivia, and my life pretty much fell apart when I was 14. Before that, I had what I'd call a normal, happy life. My dad was my best friend. He was the kind of guy who made the best grilled cheese sandwiches, who taught me how to fix a bike chain, who made up ridiculous bedtime stories that always had a surprise ending. He was my person. And then one rainy Tuesday he was gone. I still remember that night in pieces like a bad dream I can't wake up from. My mom got the call while she was making dinner. The way she dropped the spoon into the sink, the way her face went pale, the way she grabbed the kitchen counter like she needed it to hold her up. It's all burned into my brain. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it was bad. Then she turned to me and just said, "Your father's dead." Just like that. No warning, no softening the blow. Nothing. The details came later. A car accident. A drunk driver who walked away without a scratch. My dad, trapped in his crumpled car. Dying alone while my mom took her sweet time getting to the hospital. I found out later, years later, why she wasn't in a rush, but we'll get to that. For a while I thought she was grieving like I was. But now I know better. See, my mom wasn't broken. She was just inconvenienced. She cried at the funeral, sure, but it was the kind of crying you do when you drop your phone in the sink. Annoyed, frustrated, but not devastated. I kept waiting for the moment she'd break down, waiting for her to miss him. But she never did. And I don't think I'll ever forgive her for that. Because from the second my dad was gone, it was like she flipped a switch. She didn't just move on. She erased him. His clothes, donated within a week. His car, sold within 2. She packed up his tools, his books, his stupid baseball bobbleheads, every piece of him, and shoved them out of sight like he'd never existed. And when I tried to hold on to him, when I refused to let her toss out his old flannel that still smelled like him, or when I kept his favorite coffee mug, she snapped. "He's dead, Olivia. Move on. Move on." I was 14. I didn't want to move on. I wanted my dad back. But my mother had other plans. And as I'd soon learn, I was just another thing standing in her way. So after my dad's funeral, it became pretty clear my mom was over it. Grief barely lasted a month. Mourning, please, she had bigger things to worry about, like not having to work anymore. See, my dad had been the breadwinner, and while we weren't rich, we were comfortable. My mom hadn't worked in years, and instead of, I don't know, getting a job, she went for the next easiest option. Finding a new husband to fund her lifestyle. And oh boy, did she find a winner. James was a real estate agent, which sounds respectable, except he wasn't exactly good at it. The guy had more failed ventures than successful ones, but he had one thing my mom really cared about: money. Not his own, his ex-wife's. He'd gotten a hefty divorce settlement, had a decent house, and lucky me, came with 2 sons from his previous marriage, Noah 17 and Jacob 15. I remember the first time she introduced me to them. It was at this fancy restaurant, and I showed up in my usual jeans and hoodie because, I thought I was meeting my mom's boyfriend, not attending a corporate merger. Meanwhile, James' kids rolled in wearing designer clothes like they just stepped off a yacht. Noah, the oldest, gave me one look and barely acknowledged me. Jacob, the younger one, smirked and muttered, "Hope you know how to do laundry." I should have run. The wedding happened fast. Too fast. Like, my mom knew this guy for less than a year fast. I barely had time to process it before I was being shoved into a moving van and driven 3 states away to a house that wasn't mine, with a family that didn't want me there. And from day one it was clear. I was not an equal in this household. Noah and Jacob? They got their own rooms, fully furnished with top-tier gaming setups, new furniture, the works. Me? I got a guest room with mismatched furniture, and a lumpy mattress that smelled like mothballs. My mom's excuse? Well, we just moved, Olivia. Give it time. Spoiler alert. Nothing changed. Then the chores started. Apparently, in James' house, my stepbrothers were above doing things like cleaning, cooking, or even picking up after themselves. My mom, who had previously never cared about household chores, suddenly decided that it was my job to keep things running smoothly. A laundry? Mine. Dishes? Mine. A cooking? Mine. A grocery shopping? Mine. A cleaning up after Noah and Jacob's disgusting messes? Also mine. James had the audacity to call me a freeloader whenever I tried to push back. A freeloader? At 16? In a house I didn't even want to live in? I tried to talk to my mom about it, but she just waved me off. Olivia, stop being dramatic. Everyone pitches in. Oh yeah, where was Noah's chore list? Where was Jacob's? That's right, they didn't have one. At school, things weren't any better. Moving in the middle of high school is bad enough, but moving to a school where you don't know a soul while your stepbrothers immediately become popular? That's next level misery. Noah was already some sports star, and Jacob had this smug my dad has money energy that somehow attracted friends like flies. Meanwhile, I spent lunch periods eating alone in the library because the one time I tried to sit with them, Jacob laughed and went, "Yeah, no. This table's full." That was the first time I truly realized I was on my own. So I focused on the only thing I could control, my grades. If I could just keep my GPA high enough, I could get into a good college, get a scholarship, and finally get out. But because my life is a never-ending dumpster fire, my mom had other plans. She just didn't tell me about them yet. So, after realizing I was basically the unpaid maid of my new family, I did what any sane person would do. I threw myself into school. Studying became my escape, my ticket out. I spent every waking moment either buried in textbooks or picking up extra credit work. My goal was simple: get the hell out of that house and never look back. My grades? Perfect. My SAT score? Crushed it. I was on track for scholarships and had already started looking at colleges far, far away. But guess who didn't care? If I came home with an A? No reaction. If I mentioned a scholarship opportunity? A distracted, "That's nice, Olivia." Meanwhile, Noah got a full-on steak dinner for getting a C+ in math because he really tried this time. And then there was James. If I so much as existed too loudly, he found a way to criticize me. He had this favorite little insult: freeloader. Every time I took a second to breathe, I'd hear it. Freeloader sitting around while Noah's at practice. A freeloader reading while Jacob's out socializing. A freeloader should be doing something useful. What else was I supposed to be doing? I was 16. I couldn't work full-time. I didn't have a car. But apparently my existence was offensive to him. And my mother? She just let it happen. She was too busy enjoying her new life, her fancy brunches with her new friends, her spa days, her husband's money, to care about what was happening to me. Then came, one day, completely out of nowhere, my mom sat me down and dropped a bombshell. "We're selling the house and moving." I blinked. Moving where? To a new state. James got a great business opportunity and we're relocating. It'll be a fresh start for all of us. Fresh start? Fresh start. I was 2 months away from college application deadlines. 2 months. And these psychos were planning to rip me away from everything again, without even telling me until the decision was already made. I felt the blood drain from my face. And what about my school? My applications? My future? My mom waved a hand like I was asking about the weather. "Oh, Olivia, you can finish school anywhere. College can wait. Family comes first." Family? Oh, now she wanted to play the family card? I lost it. I told her flat out this was insane, that I wasn't going anywhere, that I had worked too damn hard to throw my future away for another one of her impulsive life choices. And she just smiled. "You're still a child, Olivia. You don't get to make these decisions." That was it. That was the moment I realized she didn't care. Not about me, not about my future, Not about the years of work I'd put in to escape. I was just in the way. But fine. She wanted to play dirty? I could play dirty too. I refused. I fought. I yelled. None of it mattered. 1 month later, I was being shoved into a packed SUV and driven hundreds of miles away to a state I did not want to live in, to a house I did not want to be in, with people who did not want me there. And that's when my life stopped being a high school nightmare and turned into something straight out of a Charles Dickens novel. If I thought I was treated like a maid before, I had no idea what was coming. In the old house, at least I had my own space. In the new one? No. James and my mom forgot, Reed never planned to set up a proper room for me. Noah and Jacob had their rooms fully decorated before we even unpacked, but me? I got stuck in a half-finished attic space. No AC, no heating, just a mattress on the floor. And we'll figure it out later. But hey, they didn't forget about me when it came to chores. Noah and Jacob? Free to do whatever they wanted. Me? If I wasn't scrubbing a floor or making dinner, James found a way to remind me I was a freeloader. It didn't matter that I was still in school. It didn't matter that I was still a minor. It didn't matter that I hadn't asked for any of this. To them, I was nothing more than free labor. And my mother? The same woman who once told me, "You can be anything you want, Olivia?" She just nodded along like this was normal. I was still trying to cling to the one thing that gave me hope: college. I found a way to stay late at school, using any excuse to avoid going home. I applied for scholarships in secret. I told myself, just survive until graduation. Then you can leave forever. But one night, James decided he wasn't done ruining my life. I came home from a shift at my part-time job because, surprise, they also demanded I work to contribute. And James was waiting in the kitchen. He had this smug look on his face, the same one he always had before saying something awful. "Olivia, you're 17. Time to start pulling your weight. Starting next month, you're paying rent." I thought I misheard him. "What? You're living under my roof, eating my food. It's time to start being an adult." My food? I had been cooking every damn meal in this house. My roof? I slept in an attic. I turned to my mother, waiting for her to say something. Waiting for her to, I don't know, act like my mother. She just shrugged. "It's fair, Olivia. You can't expect to live for free forever." I swear my soul left my body for a second. "I'm 17, I snapped. "I'm still in high school." James just smirked. "Then you better start working harder. Life's not free." Life's not free? This man had been leeching off his ex-wife's divorce money for years. My mother hadn't worked since before my dad died. But sure, I was the problem. That's when I realized they were trying to break me. They didn't want me to go to college. They didn't want me to have options. They wanted to make sure I was trapped. They underestimated me. Because I was about to get my revenge. My evil stepfather and my sellout of a mother decided I should start paying rent at 17, while still in high school. The goal? To break me. To make sure I never left. But here's the thing about abusers: they always think they're the smartest people in the room. They think they have everything under control. But life? Life has a funny way of throwing a wrench in people's plans. And my wrench came in the form of a mysterious old man at the cafe where I worked. So, with no other choice, I started working 2 jobs, one at a grocery store and one at this little cafe a few blocks from my school. I'd wake up, go to class, work shifts, come home late, do whatever chores James threw at me, sleep for maybe 4 hours and repeat. But I had a plan. Every cent I made, I saved. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell James. I stashed it in a separate account under a name they didn't know. I was getting out one way or another. Then, a few weeks into my cafe job, I noticed him. An older man, maybe in his late 60s, who always sat in the corner, sipping black coffee and reading the newspaper. He was quiet, but he always tipped well, like absurdly well. I figured he was just some lonely old guy who liked the routine. Until he started watching me. First, I thought I was imagining it. But then one day, as I cleared his table, he spoke. "You work too much for someone your age." I froze. People make comments like that all the time. Customers love to act like they care about employees while handing over their empty plates like we're invisible. So I just forced a smile. "Gotta pay the bills, right?" But he didn't smile back. "Your father wouldn't have wanted this for you." My blood ran cold, because I had never told anyone at work about my dad. I stared at him, my hands shaking. Sorry, what?" The old man sighed, took something out of his pocket, and slid it across the table. A photograph. And not just any photograph. A picture of my dad. That's when he said the words that changed everything. "I'm your grandfather, Olivia." I just stood there, my brain short-circuiting. Because I didn't have a grandfather. My dad's parents had died before I was born. That's what my mom told me. That's what I believed. But this man? He was sitting there with my father's face, just older. And he had receipts. A birth certificate. Old letters. A will. My hands were shaking as I flipped through them. "Your father and I had a falling out before you were born. But we reconnected, Olivia. We wrote to each other for years. He told me everything about you." His voice wavered. "When he died, I sent money to your mother. A lot of money. $300,000, to make sure you'd be taken care of. For your college fund. But you never got it, did you?" I felt sick. Because no. I didn't get a damn cent. My mother took it. And I was about to find out just how deep her betrayal went. After my mysterious cafe customer turned out to be my actual grandfather, I spent the next week trying to process what the hell had just happened. My dad had reconnected with him years ago. When he died, my grandfather gave my mom $300,000. Money meant for me. She never told me. Never gave me a dime. At first I thought, okay, maybe she spent it on our house, on bills, on keeping us afloat after Dad died. It would still be disgusting, but at least it would make sense. But then my grandfather said, "She didn't use it for you at all." I had never been so scared of a sentence in my life. Turns out, while I was breaking my back working 2 jobs to afford the privilege of living in my own personal hellhole, my grandfather had been quietly investigating what my mom did with the money. And the answer? She blew through all of it. A luxury vacations to Europe and the Bahamas. Or a brand new car for herself, obviously. A spa retreat that costs more than my entire rent for a year. And the cherry on top? She used some of it to help James start a business venture that failed in 6 months. Meanwhile, I was paying rent at 17, sleeping in an attic, and digging through couch cushions for gas money. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse. So, remember how my dad died in a car accident? How my mom didn't rush to the hospital? Well, my grandfather found bank records that showed she made a $30,000 withdrawal on the same day. While my dad was dying alone in a wrecked car, she was at the damn bank withdrawing his money. Not sitting with him in the hospital. Not making sure he was okay. She was making sure she got paid. And just for fun? That withdrawal was the exact amount needed to finalize some private debt she had with James. So yeah, she wasn't just a selfish monster. She was profiting off my dad's death. After hearing all of this, I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even shocked. I was furious. This woman had taken everything from me. My dad. My future. My childhood. And she thought she could just get away with it? No. Not on my watch. So to recap, my mom stole $300,000 that was meant for my future. She blew it on vacations, a car, and James' failed business. On the day my dad died, she was at the bank making a huge withdrawal instead of being at the hospital. And after all of that, she still had the audacity to call me a freeloader. No. I was done. I was going to destroy her. Step 1: receipts. Grandpa and I put together a paper trail so airtight that even a snake like my mother couldn't slither out of it. Bank statements. Transaction records. Emails she sent about spending the money. Even old texts bragging about her new life. after my dad died. It was all right there. And to make things even juicier, Grandpa hired a lawyer. A really good one. Turns out what she did wasn't just morally disgusting. It was actual fraud. Step 2 showdown. Now I could have taken this straight to the cops. But no. I wanted to see the look on her face when she realized her world was about to burn. So one night after dinner, I walked into the living room and dropped a thick folder of documents onto the coffee table. "Hey Mom, mind explaining this?" She barely glanced at it. "Olivia, I'm not in the mood for one of your tantrums." James smirked from the couch. "What's the matter, freeloader?" Finally realized life isn't free. Oh, he was going to regret that. I flipped open a bank statement and shoved it in her face. "So tell me, Mom, how exactly does a broke widow afford a 5-star trip to Italy?" She froze. I kept going. "And this new car? Paid in full. Must be nice. Oh, and what's this? A $30,000 withdrawal on the day Dad died? What a coincidence." James sat up. "What the hell is she talking about?" My mom snapped the folder shut. "I don't have to explain myself to you." I smiled. "You don't have to explain it to me, but you'll definitely have to explain it to a judge." That's when I pulled out the legal notice. Grandpa's lawyer had filed formal charges against her for fraud and misappropriation of funds. If she didn't return the money, we were taking her to court. And if she thought that was bad, I had one last bomb to drop. "Oh, and by the way, I'm moving out." Step 3 escape. Cue the meltdown. James flipped out first. "Where the hell do you think you're gonna go? You can't survive without us." I laughed. "Survive? I've been working 2 jobs to live in a damn attic. I think I'll manage." Then my mom started fake crying. "Olivia, don't do this. We're family." I just stared at her. "You stopped being my family the day you sold my future for a spa day." And with that I grabbed my bags, which I had already packed, and walked out. Grandpa was waiting outside with his car. As soon as I got in, he handed me an envelope. Inside, check. "That money was always meant for you, Olivia. Now go build the life your father wanted for you." I felt tears in my eyes, but not from sadness. For the first time in years I felt free. Aftermath. My mom tried to negotiate, but our lawyer destroyed her. She had to sell her car and drain her savings to pay me back. James, gone. The second he realized she was broke, he bailed. Noah and Jacob? Not my problem. Me? I started college fully paid for thanks to Grandpa. Oh, and my mom tried to call me months later begging for forgiveness. I blocked her. Because some betrayals, you don't come back from. After everything I've been through, I finally feel like I can breathe. So where did we leave? Oh, right. I exposed my mom. James ran for the hills. I got my money back and left for good. And now, I finally have the life my dad wanted for me. Moving in with my grandfather was surreal. I had spent years believing I was completely alone in the world. That no one cared about me. That I had no one in my corner. And suddenly, I had family again. But not just any family, someone who actually gave a damn about me. Grandpa helped me get settled into college, made sure I had everything I needed, and, for the first time in years, I wasn't constantly working myself to death just to survive. I didn't have to ration meals. I didn't have to choose between school and sleep. I didn't have to walk on eggshells in my own home. I was free. And let me tell you, it felt incredible. My mom tried several times to worm her way back into my life. At first, she sent fake apology texts about how she made mistakes and just wanted her daughter back. When that didn't work, she tried guilt-tripping me. "You'll regret cutting off your own mother." And when that didn't work, she started begging for money. It was almost funny how fast the mask slipped. Blocked. Forever. Noah and Jacob also tried reaching out. Apparently, James completely abandoned them after he left my mom. And suddenly, they were real interested in reconnecting with their dear stepsister. Yeah, no. I let them figure life out the way I had to. Fast forward a couple of years. I graduated with honors. I got a job that I love. I moved into my own place. And best of all, Grandpa is still here, still supporting me, still proving that family isn't about blood. It's about who actually stands by you. Oh, and the best part? He's in remission. Yep. After years of battling health issues, Grandpa finally got good news. He jokes that my success gave him something to stick around for. I joke that I'm just making sure he stays alive long enough for me to pay him back for all those college books. Sometimes I think about the life I left behind. About my mom. About James. About how close I was to never escaping. But then I remember. I fought for this. I clawed my way out. And I won. For anyone out there who feels trapped like I did, just know. You can get out. You can build a life beyond the people who try to hold you back. And you don't owe your abusers a damn thing. So yeah, Reddit. That's my story. And for the first time in forever, I'm actually